which the question. SP sir, please ask him.
मेरा जो क्वेश्चन है, it has less to do with the main topic of discussion here, but ये प्रॉब्लम बार बार आती रहती है, तो I thought I'd like to get some guidance on this. अब इसी सूत्र में भगवान की जो सबसे पहला बात कही गई है, abandoning the taking of life, the ascetic Gautam dwells refraining from taking life without stick or sword, scrupulous, compassionate, trembling for the welfare of all living beings. एक तरफ तो ये है, दूसरा हमारी डेली लाइफ में कुछ और ही होता है. Generally, because of the practice, there is less tendency to have an ill will for others when there is a stimulus. But when there is a very strong stimulus and continues for a long time, we invariably get into this mode of compassion वगैरह फिर बहुत दूर हो जाती है. Basically, the ill will does come and continues for quite as long as the stimulus lasts, at least. The effect also is there. So either there is a lack of wisdom here, प्रज्ञा की प्रॉब्लम है कि रिएक्शन हो जाता है, रिएक्शन होता रहता है, or perhaps we are not doing enough a proper practice of at least I'm talking of myself, metta, karuna, etc. And I just thought I'll share. I mean, this doesn't happen often, but it happens when there is a very strong stimulus, and usually you can't do much about it. Just thought, since it is the very first sentence that made me ask this question from this Sutta, I thought it may be relevant to discuss that for me. Thank you.
To overcome this deficiency is the whole practice. We need both panya and samadhi.
सर आप इतना डरा देते हैं ना कि एवरी टाइम देयर इज अ रिएक्शन, पता नहीं कितने बर्ड्स हम ऐड कर लेते हैं.
नहीं, हमारी प्रैक्टिस तो बस यही है ना, इसीलिए तो प्रैक्टिस करना है. तो धीरे धीरे होती रहेगी, इसमें क्या बात. We have a confidence that we all of us are doing our best. Yatha sati, yatha balam. That's it. So we don't need to get. I mean, there is that spiritual sadness.
Can we do something better so that it happens less?
Yeah, we develop our panya, we develop samadhi, then reactivity will come down. More the samadhi, less the reactivity. Then it is coupled with panya. So we need to practice that. We all know that. But and jara factors and all the factors need to be present. 5 faculties, all the 5 faculties starting from Saddha need to be developed. Saddha, Virya, Sati, Samadhi, Panya. If 5 faculties are developed, so we are all developing them. ऐसा थोड़ा ना कर नहीं रहे हैं, but slowly. So more the Saddha, more will be the mokshatva, and wish to get liberated, and then Virya will arise. Sati will practice, Samadhi will practice, Panya will practice. So that's it. We can look at it from various ways. We all come to the same conclusion कि भाई अष्टांगिक मार्ग को हम जितना डेवलप करेंगे उतना लाभ हो.
Thank you. There is a second question. If you look at all these views that we have discussed or we're going to discuss, how does it relate to modern atheist view, where they
Yeah,
say that your birth
yeah,
is accident. So
yeah.
is it contained in one of these?
Yeah. This will come in the next classes.
Okay.
Class materialistic world is also part of the discussion.
But if you talk to them, try to discuss things with them, they basically say we are an accident. Our birth is an accident, and there's nothing that. Of course,
Yeah,
they concede that morality is important, but that's from the perspective of not harming others,
yeah,
not being scared कि भाई rebirth होगा फिर ऐसा होगा, बड़ा different type of discussion हो जाता है.
yeah, yeah. That is a secular Buddhism kind of thing. So that is also one of the views which will be, whose origin will be found. We see that in all the discussions, the origin of the views is pointed out rather than critiquing the view. And once you know the origin is itself based on wrong premise, then it falls off automatically. So it's a different strategy. It doesn't argue about whether it's what is the shortcoming of that. That part Bhikkhu Bodhi has done in his introduction. In his introduction, in the Bhikkhu Bodhi's book, where he comments on the sutta, in the introduction part, he comments on the critiques. And he mentions Buddha does not critique it. He points out कि उसका जो origin है वो, it is based on craving, it is based on insecurity, it is based on assumption that मैं तो हूँ ही. So then everything falls off. It's a different strategy. I think if you study that Pachayan Gota Sutta, that I think is a very short sutta, but it makes things uh, very clear. That if one only sees the arising of phenomena, then he gets into eternalistic views. If he sees the cessation only, he gets into the views of annihilationism. One who sees the causes behind arising and causes behind cessation, he gets into the dependent origination. And that's a very short sutta, but
कौन से
very
सूत्र से?
profound. चयन होता सत्ता उसका नंबर मैं एक मिनट में बताता हूँ.
पढ़ा है तो मुझे याद
हाँ
नहीं आ रहा
हम
पाठ.
सबने पढ़ा हुआ है. संयुक्त निकाय 12.15
ओके.
चयन होता सत्ता which Madhyamaka of Nagarjuna is a commentary on that sutta. It's very small. हाँ जी मतलब एक पेज में भी नहीं है शायद. तो इसमें वो उसका चयन इज ए ग्रेट डिसाइपल, उसको ज्यादा बताने की जरूरत नहीं. He asks what is the right view, how does the right view arise, and he tells him just this much. Maybe I could read it out.
11 point समथिंग बताया ना.
12.15 में पढ़ देता हूँ.
12.15.
It's very small. सम्मा दिट्ठी भनते उच्चति कित्तवातानुको भनते. लोग कहते हैं सम्यक राइट व्यू. व्हाट इज राइट, हाउ इज इट डिफाइंड? This is Kachayana, and let me just translate. The world mostly relies on dual notions of existence and non-existence, means nathincha or nathincha. But when you truly see the origin of the world with right understanding, you won't have the notion of non-existence. When you see the cessation of world with right understanding, you won't have the notion of existence regarding the world, which means permanent existence and permanent cessation. World is for most part shackled by attraction, grasping, and insisting. But if you don't get attracted, grasp, and commit to thought, you will have no doubt or uncertainty that what arises is just suffering arising and what ceases is just suffering ceasing. Your knowledge about this is independent of others. This is how right view is defined. All exist is one extreme, all does not exist is the second extreme. Avoiding these two extremes, one teaches by the middle way, avidya, pachya, sankhara, and so on. And that's the end of the sutta. So these details of this are mentioned in this sutta. What are the various views which arise because of a thin chair was believing in existence, others not believing in existence. And so all kinds of views are floating around. And
Thank
they
you.
seem very, they are presented in a manner, they seem very, giving a false sense of security. तो आगे आएगी बात, अब जैसे दीपक बताएगा हमें, and they need really deep reflection of the challenge of our past held views.
Actually, that's what most religions try to
Yeah,
induce, a sense of
yeah.
security.
जी
That's what everybody needs, and somehow they provide
yeah,
that.
जी, very true. He wants us to be brave. And
Third
look at the
question is,
things clearly.
if I may ask, it has to do with science, let's say, because science tries to make scientific
Yeah,
observations
yeah.
and then
But then it also
make theories
extrapolates.
about things.
Yeah, it also extrapolates. In fact,
Right.
in all the views, one of the methods is logic, rationality, which is the modern scientific method. You can always devise
But
things
logic
based
may
on.
depend purely on logic, mental exercise, but may also have to do with a lot of scientific experiments that you have done, based on which you draw some conclusions. But of course, you can never perform any kind of experiment or enough experiments to know the complete truth.
For
So therefore,
example,
you
this whole question of Big Bang, nobody has seen it. These are all theories, isn't it? They're just theories.
but it is
Because
consistent
they
with
fit in the
contraction and expansion, isn't it?
anything which fits with the data, we accept it. Now, having been a person involved in that process as a scientific work, you can fit any equation in any data, virtually, by suitable tricks, parameter fixation.
I'm talking of Buddha's cosmology, talking about
Yeah,
expansion and contraction, which is
yeah,
perhaps similar to the black hole and
that's
Big Bang theories.
yeah, it matches substantially with that, yeah. But the scientists who derived it, they did it on the basis of certain observations and hypothesizing why they have happened. So it seems to match, but what exactly is the matching is will become clear because in the next talk he will talk about Abhasar Loka, people going to Brahma Loka. That's all beyond the ken of science.
समझना तो बड़ा मुश्किल है.
बहुत मुश्किल है. Because they are not within the domain where instruments can catch that. हमारी साइंस तो उसी डोमेन में ऑपरेट करती है ना जो इंस्ट्रूमेंट्स कैच कर सकें. तो जो इंस्ट्रूमेंट से कैच नहीं हो सकती, जो विच आर immaterial things. Instruments can catch only material things.
So the scientific friends usually say, okay, that's okay, but we should not speculate on what we cannot observe. Today the science explains this, tomorrow it will explain something else.
Yeah, that is the
So,
hope. Yeah, but they don't allow
but it
subjective
is impossible
experiments.
for any kind of scientific experiments, perhaps, that you will
Yeah.
know the complete reality ever of
The
cosmos.
consciousness can never be known. The knower cannot be known. That is the fundamental problem.
जी.
That's the hard problem of consciousness, that you can never know the instrument which are using to knowing. There's no way you can know that. So there's a big problem. Of course, there are people who think they'll find. There are others who say there's impossibility of finding it. So it has become a more of a philosophy question, a scientific question. And now your hypothesis that consciousness is the fundamental reality. There's a lot of
Hmm. Yes, yes. Thank you very
reason.
much.
These are the new philosophy theories which are coming up. There's that Akashic field
Yes.
hypothesis. Science has its own way, of course. And by trial and error, it does arrive at some very interesting truths.
Thank you very much.
That's just a short digression. ये जो आप
ये जो स्टेटमेंट इन सूत्रों में आती है that a beginning of the sansar cannot be discerned, something to that effect. I'm not really remembering the exact words. So, in terms of, does it have a corresponding thing in, let us say, Paticca Samuppat? Is it equivalent to saying that Vinyan Pachya Ram, Nam Rup Pachya, Vinyan? Is it the same thing or they are different things? They're different principles.
Paticca Samuppat deals with in the so-called being, the arising of one person. It doesn't have cosmological dimensions. And there are very few suttas in which cosmology is discussed really. So the idea of that beginning of what actually Buddha's statement is that when he talks about his abhinyas, that he went and saw the people arising and passing away, and he went on and on till 93 eons, in the hope that he will find when did the ignorance begin, so that one can answer the question, when did this whole drama start? So he saw the arising and passing away of eons, but the absolute beginning of the whole process could not be seen. So he therefore concluded that this is cyclic existence which keeps on going on and on. So you can't find the beginning. So you can't find the beginning of ignorance because you generally think, why am I here? Okay, when did this whole thing, if I am suffering because of ignorance, then when did I get ignorance? So that's the question which he tried to probe. So in that sense, it is said that beginning of ignorance and therefore beginning of the universe, because ignorance is the cause of human beings or all beings present in the world. So in that sense, it is said beginning cannot be discovered. But Paticca Samutpat talks about the persons, individuals, processes which happen in the one individual stream of consciousness. So it doesn't talk about cosmos as a whole.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. In fact, किसी सुत्ता में specifically बताया भी हुआ है कि beginninglessness has to do with avijja. I mentioned
Yeah,
here.
beginning of ignorance could not be found. It is a endless process. In fact, if I may add, this itself marks the contrast between Buddha's realization and other traditions. Because other traditions try to uh, metaphysical theories about how the beginning happened, beginning of creation, how did it happen? Buddha said, no, there's no beginning of creation. It's endless cyclic process going on and on. So in a way, he admitted that he can't find the beginning of this whole thing. While others tried to find some theory, some hypothesis, either some God doing it in certain time or happening because of consciousness getting uh, caught in its own maya and so on. I mean, all kinds of philosophies are created, which are non-falsifiable.
So this understanding, uh, how can it help us in our striving
Yeah.
for defilement, removing defilements?
Yeah. So what it helps us, which you mean with respect to Brahmajala Sutta or this particular list?
I mean, this is in some sense connected with those views. I don't know. I thought might be connected, but may not be also.
See, the way I look at Brahmajala Sutta is that it points out to us that other philosophies and metaphysics extant in the world are not going to lead you to complete liberation from the cycle of birth and death. That's the thing. Now, why is it important that we, as people who are following the path, we think we have got full confidence, but not all of us have got full confidence. So, especially when we are practicing and we face enormous difficulties in the practice, which is quite uh, likely to happen when we practice very intensely. The sankharas arise and they create a lot of disturbance in the mind. And when the disturbances become unmanageable, we often tend to find maybe this is not for me, something else will work. And then we go to our native philosophies, methods of spiritual evolution, and we give up this and take up another thing, especially because they give us a kind of a false sense of security. There's some deity who will protect you, and so don't bother. Buddha does not give any such sense of false sense of security. He gives Dhammo have rakhati dhammachari. So your practice, your following of Dhamma will save you. So this becomes quite tough. I mean, practicing can become very tough for most of us. When you practice very intensely and strong sankharas come out, handling them is quite tough, and one can give up. मेरे बस का नहीं है, कुछ और कर ले. And I have seen it happen with many people. So this sutta is a caution. Well, you can do that, but it will not take you to liberation. It will take you to higher realms of existence and so on, as he mentions in the suttas which you studied. Now, in the portion which you study mentions, I know where does this practice lead to? Which realm of existence will this practice lead to? Obviously, it will be a higher realm, better realm, happiness and all that, and very long life, but impermanent. Eventually, fall down to human or even lower births. So you're not free from the cycle of birth. And so that's a big caution that if you have undertaken and if you decide, if you understood the path properly, then you not look back. There will be no.
Your confidence in the path becomes,
Yeah.
hopefully.
And it's one is on the basis of understanding. Of course, confidence will develop by practice, but still, even if confidence is developed in the beginning, it's not unshakable confidence. Because when the practice becomes very tough, and I know personally how tough it can become, and I've seen it happen for hundreds of people, can become so tough that it's virtually impossible to, I mean, for a normal person, if he doesn't have great tenacity and kind of dhamma to hold on. And then one seeks some other avenues. You may seek. And there are so many avenues. Within Buddhism, there are so many other alternatives which are less demanding, so to say. And we have our own huge tradition with various practices, various traditions which exist in our country even today. So one can look for softer options, if I may use that word. And that would be a great loss, because then you will be prolonging the journey in this samsara. So in that sense, I see the importance of this and this investigation process.
Thanks. Thank you very
I hope
much.
it makes sense.
Well, it makes a lot of sense. Thank you.
Thank you.
So do you remember you sometime mentioned laws of Akashic field book? So what was the your takeaway from that book? Why would you mention that book? Do you remember?
I said
In what context?
these are the various alternate philosophies which have emerged from science. That was traditionally science has been materialistic. That matter is the primary thing, and everything else is epiphenomena. Now that position is changing within science also, and consciousness is being seen as a central reality, and everything else is seen as so that because mention was being made about science and the worldview of science. So I pointed it out that scientific theories will always remain theory, they always keep on changing and changing to kindly totally contradictory forms. So it's not science cannot be a substitute for spiritual inquiry. Can there can be parallels, as they say, parallels between spirituality and scientific process, but they are just as um, like
Yeah, it contains uh, comparison between Swami Vivekananda and
we should not try to see too much into it. I have spent very long time, almost 30 years, in studying these parallels between science and I used to teach courses there, and I for 25 years I've got. So I know that yeah, there are. It's very interesting. Intellectually, it's very interesting when you see these parallels between spiritual inquiry, scientific inquiry, the conclusions of science regarding nature of matter, matching with the uh, spiritual pursuit to the inquiry from spiritual end. But it doesn't free you. It doesn't have anything to do with freedom. It can be intellectually satisfying. It doesn't free you in any way.
right, sir. Right.
हाँ जी दीपक जी कहिए.
ये एक एकेडमिक से क्वेश्चन है कि जैसे आपने कहा कि भगवान गौतम बुद्ध ने 93 ईयर्स तक पीछे देखा, तो हमारे जो इतने सम्यक संबुद्धों की हम बात करते हैं, जब हम चैंटिंग करते हैं, तो वो भी काफी लंबे लंबे गैप के बाद इस संसार में प्रकट हुए होंगे.
जी
इट्स क्यूरियोसिटी, इट्स जस्ट क्यूरियोसिटी.
हाँ जी हाँ जी हाँ जी या बिल्कुल
तो
बिल्कुल.
जैसे हम ये मानते हैं कि ये जो हमारा धर्म है ये कालातीत है, तो वही प्रिंसिपल्स 93 ईयन तक चलते रहे, मे बी अर्लियर. तो
हाँ
जस्ट ए मैटर ऑफ
we
स्पेकुलेशन.
we when Buddha discovered this path, he didn't say I have invented it.
हाँ,
He said I have discovered it, and this is the path which all Buddhas. In fact, एक सूत्र में
या
बुद्धा विपस्सी सिक्खी के बारे में सिक्खी बुद्धा mix up either vipassy or sikhi. He gives this path of inquiry and he mentions praticca samutpad exactly in the same way.
ओ,
So he says all the Buddhas have come to the same conclusion. Therefore, many times he will say this is the teachings of all the Buddhas, not his teaching only.
ओके ओके.
Sabba papasya karanam kushalasya upasampada सचित्तो परिवर्तनम एसन बुद्धान शासनम. ये सभी बुद्धों की शासन. इसमें you'll find he always mentions this is what all Buddhas have discovered. It's not something I have invented or something. It's a rediscovery.
ओके.
It is the analogy of a old city which is forgotten. एक पूरा सुत्ता आता है जिसमें एंशियंट सिटी है, वो जंगल उसमें कोई चला ही नहीं तो सारा जंगलों से वीट से भर गया, लास्ट किसी को पता ही नहीं. And then he says, I traveled and located that city. It is that analogy. So the path is Kalatik in that sense. And
और शायद आपने एक बार कहा था कि ये सारे सम्यक संबुद्ध हुए हैं हमारे इंडिया में या इसके आसपास ही हुए हैं, शायद आपने ये कहा एक बारी, इफ आई रिकलेक्ट करेक्टली। इज इट सो? क्लोसिटी है, जैसे।
Yeah, you can see that, you can find, you can verify it ourselves. Is there anything which is time dependent in teaching? Are Four Noble Truths changing with age, era? Do the Paticha Samutpat change with era? Do the Eightfold Path change with any time? No, it doesn't. It can't. One has to practice morality to gain samadhi, and one has to have some samadhi to gain wisdom. It's just not. It can't be otherwise.
नहीं सर,
To
मैं
get to get
क्वेश्चन,
that definiteness is this study which we are doing in this Vasa will be exactly for this purpose. To get
जी जी
absolutely clear कि भाई जो बात है वो हालांकि उसमें कोई
जी जी
गुंजाइश
जी
नहीं है
जी
उसको प्यूरिफाई करने की या कुछ उसमें से हटा दें या ऐसा कर।
नहीं जी, वो आपकी बात पूरी समझ आती है। नहीं, मेरा क्वेश्चन थोड़ा डिफरेंट था कि
क्या
93 इयॉन्स एयर्स में ज्योग्राफी कितनी बदल गई होगी, मुझे
हाँ तो
इट्स
उससे क्या
माइंड
फर्क
बॉगलिंग।
पड़ता है?
नहीं
दुख
नहीं,
का
पर मैं,
कारण तो नहीं
नहीं
दुख
नहीं,
का
वो
कारण तो
वो
नहीं
नहीं
बनता
नहीं,
है।
इट्स ओनली एकेडमिक, इट्स, यू
हाँ
कैन
that's
स्टॉप आंसरिंग दिस
yeah
क्वेश्चन। द ओनली
yeah
पॉइंट
there's
इज
no
ज्योग्राफी इतनी बदल गई, तो क्या
yeah that's
सारे सम्यक सबूत इसी देश में हुए, इसके आसपास ही हुए? ये
leave
एक
it
बड़ा,
here. Let's not get into that. Yeah.
हाँ, स्पेकुलेशन,
These
इट्स
are
मैटर ऑफ स्पेकुलेशन।
these are all
हाँ
mythology, parts of mythology.
जी जी, इट्स प्योरली एकेडमिक।
Because it's a belief system, I can't
जी जी,
verify it, I can't
क्योंकि शायद
say
तो
it.
कुछ बात हुई थी कि जो गिद्ध पर्वत है वहाँ पहले भी एक सम्यक सबूत आए थे, एक या दो, मुझे ऐसी कोई बात हुई थी।
Yeah. कहा जाता है, मान्यता है कि हाँ
हाँ जी, हाँ हाँ
सभी
जी,
बुद्ध जम्बू द्वीप में होते हैं, ऐसी मान्यता है इन दी
जम्बू जी।
नॉट इन दी त्रिपिटका बट इन दी कमेंटेरियल लिटरेचर।
हाँ, दैट्स आल्सो अ वेरी इंटरेस्टिंग रेवलेशन। हाँ जी। एनीवे,
सो
इट्स ऑल
इट्स
एकेडमिक।
एन
हम लोगों की तो प्रैक्टिस ही बड़ी कमजोर है, आगे बहुत आगे
जी
बढ़ना है, इसलिए
आई
तो बात
डोंट
चलती है तो जी
इसको कुछ ज्यादा महत्व देने की जरूरत।
जी जी जी, ओनली एकेडमिक। दैट्स राइट। थैंक यू, थैंक यू।
सर मेरा एक प्रश्न है, पूछ सकती हूँ मैं सर?
हाँ वैसे तो तुम 9:15 बजे मिल ही रही हो।
सर थोड़ा सा एक एक एक्चुअली जनरल क्वेश्चन है
हाँ
कि
ठीक।
एक्चुअली आपने निखिल जी को बोला कि साइंटिफिक टेम्पर से आप अपनी जो बुद्ध की शिक्षा है उसको आप या स्पिरिचुअल क्वेस्ट को ना देखें। बट जब हम पढ़ रहे हैं ब्रह्मजाल सूत्र, उसमें भी ऐसा दिखता है कि जैसे, क्योंकि टोटली साइंटिफिक एंगल से नहीं है, बट द अप्रोच इज साइंटिफिक, इट्स नॉट
देखिए वो
उन्होंने जो।
देयर इज अ डिफरेंस बिटवीन कंटेंट ऑफ साइंस एंड साइंटिफिक टेम्पर. So the approach is fully scientific temper according to scientific temper का मतलब होता है कि भाई आप कुछ चीज पहले ऑब्जर्वेशन करें,
जी
कुछ एक्सपेरिमेंट करें, उससे कुछ डिडक्शन करें, फिर एक्सपेरिमेंट से वेरीफाई करें, फिर कुछ थ्योरी बनाएं. दिस इज द साइंटिफिक टेम्पर
जी
दैट इज फॉलोइंग. फोर
एंड
नोबल ट्रूथ्स फॉलो दैट मेथड भाई. They follow the method of Ayurveda actually. There is a
नॉट जस्ट,
disease, there is a
आई मीन,
disease, there is a cause of disease, there is a prognosis कि हाँ डिजीज का क्योर हो सकता है और there is a treatment.
सो आई वाज
Replace
लाइक,
disease by illness, by suffering. That's it. So in that sense, it follows the logic. There is a logic and rationality to it. But what we are discussing was the content of science. The content of science जो है वो वेरिएबल है, उसकी जो हाइपोथेसिस है वो चेंज होती रहती है टाइम टू टाइम. बट फोर नोबल ट्रूथ्स आर नॉट गोइंग टू चेंज. पतिच्य
तो
समुप्पाद
द
नॉट गोइंग टू
क्वेश्चन,
चेंज.
मैं ये पूछना चाह रही हूँ, जैसे हम एज ए इंडिविजुअल, मेरे को ये नहीं है कि साइंटिफिक एंगल से देख रहे हो या फिर आप रिलीजियस या स्पिरिचुअलिटी के एंगल से देख रहे हो, कि डिफरेंट डिफरेंट दर्शन हुए हैं जो जिनमें लोगों ने एक्सपेरिमेंट करके, या कह लीजिए कि
वही.
बहुत बाद है। बट तो फॉर एज एन इंडिविजुअल, फॉर मी, व्हाट शुड माय अप्रोच इन द सेंस कि मैं कैसे उसको उस, बिकॉज मैं एज अ बीइंग born in this age and एरा, तो मेरा साइंटिफिक टेम्पर, मतलब आई इट्स वेरी नेचुरल कि आप उसे थोड़ा कंपेयर करोगे और फिर आप उसको
आप
भी देखोगे जो
साइंटिफिक
पास्ट
टेम्पर
में
से
है।
क्या मतलब है आपका? साइंटिफिक टेम्पर से क्या मतलब है?
सर मतलब भाई आपकी वो जो लॉजिकल, आप मतलब आपका, जैसे आपने कुछ, आप कुछ एक्सपेरिमेंट करते हो बेसिकली कि
हम्म,
अब कि भाई आपने ये वर्कआउट वर्क कर रहा है या नहीं कर रहा है, यू डू इट इन
हम्म,
योर बॉडी एंड देन
हाँ।
you see the scientist also doing the same thing, so it's like maybe no
मेथोडोलॉजी ठीक है, तभी तो मैंने कहा ना, मेथोडोलॉजी एक बात होती है, कंटेंट दूसरी बात। वो जो
I meant on
मेथोडोलॉजी
the,
है,
as an individual
जो
what should be
काम
my,
करने का तरीका है, काम करने का तरीका है, उसमें लॉजिक रैशनैलिटी होनी चाहिए। दैट्स व्हाट इट। और हम भी शुरू तो श्रद्धा से ही करते हैं भाई। कोई भी आदमी अगर एक शिविर में जाता है, कहीं भी जाता है, तो उसको श्रद्धा होती है तभी जाता है ना। उसको
जी।
पूरी बात समझ थोड़ी नहीं आती है।
हम्म।
वो एक्सप्लोर करने जाता है, वहाँ ध्यान करता है, फिर उसको लगता है कुछ फायदा हुआ तो लगता है कुछ तो है, देन ही ट्राइज टू अंडरस्टैंड। फिर प्रैक्टिस करता है, टीचिंग को समझता है, उसको लगता है इस टीचिंग को फॉलो करने से लाभ हो रहा है। सो टिल सच टाइम एज द प्रैक्टिस कीप्स ऑन बेनिफिटिंग हिम, ही कीप्स ऑन फीलिंग हाँ मेरी भगवान की जो टीचिंग है वो वेरीफाई हो रही है, दिस व्हाट वी डू। दिक्कत क्या होती है? दिक्कत क्या होती है? एक स्थिति हर एक साधक के जीवन में आने वाली है, वहां पे वो रुक जाएगा, क्योंकि दिक्कतें बहुत ज्यादा आ जाएगी साधना करने। अब उस समय अगर उसको अप्रोप्रिएट गाइडेंस नहीं मिली, तो वो दूसरे मार्ग ढूंढने की कोशिश करे। स्वाभाविक है ये बात।
यही तो सर, अभी हम आपको, आई मीन, आई लुक फॉर गाइडेंस, देर इज नो, कुछ जमता ही नहीं है, तो देन यू ऑलवेज लुक फॉर समथिंग।
या दैट इज ट्रू, द पॉसिबिलिटी। आप समझे नहीं मैं क्या कह रहा हूँ। आपको अगर कोई बात समझ नहीं आती है साधना करने में, ये तो छोटी मोटी बात है ना कि ये टीचिंग समझ नहीं आ रही, दैट्स ए माइनर थिंग। व्हाट आई एम मेंशनिंग इज
ये
कि
आई
कोई
एम टॉकिंग अबाउट द प्रैक्टिकल एस्पेक्ट कि भाई आप,
प्रैक्टिस, या आई एम
यस
टॉकिंग
प्रैक्टिकल
प्रैक्टिस।
इसमें। जी जी।
आप साधना कर रहे हैं और आपने 20 साल साधना कर ली, लेकिन आपको लगता है कि मेरे जो संस्कार हैं वो कम नहीं हो रहे, एक स्तर से कम हुए, थोड़े बहुत कम हो गए, अब वो प्लेटू आ गया, अब नहीं, अब चेंज नहीं हो रहा है। फिर आप पढ़ते हैं और देखते हैं कि उसमें भगवान ने ये चीजें कही हैं, इनमें से हम सारी चीजें नहीं कर रहे, तो फिर आप क्या करेंगे? या तो आप कहेंगे कि भगवान की जो हमको शिक्षा सिखाने वाले हैं उनकी जगह किसी और सिखाने वाले के पास जाएं, या अगर आपके साधना करने में बहुत कठिनाई आ रही है तो आप कहेंगे यार ये मार्ग मेरे लिए नहीं, कुछ और करना। इट्स क्वाइट कॉमन। वो बात हो रही है कि ये सूत्र इसलिए है कि हम समझ लें कि कोई और मार्ग है नहीं। दैट इज द पॉइंट। इट्स वेरी वेरी मैसिव स्टेटमेंट,
जी सर।
वेरी
ठीक।
मैसिव स्टेटमेंट।
राइट, थैंक यू।
वो जो कंटेंट है ना, मुझे उस बुक में वो इलेक्ट्रोमैग्नेटिक वेव्स और क्वांटम्स को रिलेट किया है, तो वो अच्छा तो लग रहा है, लेकिन दैट्स व्हाट पब्लिक सर्विस सेइंग कि उससे मुक्ति तो नहीं होगी।